last question. In our last event, you shared that when we have financial challenges, we can see the lack of money more as an illusion and truth as being abundance. But how do I actually live in the awareness that what I'm looking at is an illusion, meaning the bank account, so that I can truly experience what is true? What is a practical example of how we live? What is a practical example of how we live that in real life? Sure, let's go there. So there you are, you woke up, you checked your bank balance. You go, shit, there's $150 in there, there's $450 of bills coming, right? The premises we're working with today, my focus is my superpower. I can affect my inner and outer world using the power of my focus. That's the premise, one of them. So right there in that moment, as you're looking at the bank account, you start to conjure up one option. You can do many different things. You can just not look there, look someplace else. But as that is coming up, you close it out and you go, that's just one source of money. How do I know that? Because I'm operating with a limitless life force. If I'm operating and tapped into a limitless life force, what I perceive as a limited bank account is therefore an illusion, meaning there is more available to me than I am currently seeing with my eyes when I tap on that bank account. Do y'all get that? Let me repeat it. Bank account looking kind of scant, lots of bills coming. You can go into fear, you can go into worry, but you're practicing truth. You're practicing applying truth to a situation. So you go, my focus is my superpower, and I can choose, I can change my world, and I can change my life experiences with my focus. Yeah, I just saw that there was only $150 in there, and I am aware there's $450 of bills coming. And I'm also aware that there's a limitless life force within me. And because I am so aware of that, I am also aware that there's no limit to the money that can come to me. And because I'm aware that there's no limit to the money that can come to me, I am going to drift into a state of expectation that money is going to come from somewhere. Ideas, resources, gifts, I don't care where it comes from. I know that my needs are met now. I know all is well now. I know that the limitless life force within me is sending me opportunities, is sending me ideas, is sending me money, is sending me gifts. I am going to choose to stay open in this moment. I'm not going to close with worry. I'm not going to close with concern. I'm going to stay open to what wants to come through in this moment. And you start tapping into those truths. You cannot tap into those truths and remain in a state of worry. You can even begin to become curious, as the message, how to pivot out of worry, that video. What if it happens this way? What if it happens that way? What if it happens this way? Now you're what if in the direction of what is preferred and what's possible. And all of those things are possible, right? So that's how you can change right there in that moment, okay? So what's a practical example of how we live that in real life? The one thing, so that's what I would personally do if something like that happened. Now, what if the time is drawing near and the money still isn't coming? First, I would say, don't go into that what if. Like, why would you go into that what if to make that a reality, right? But let's just say you're looking at the bank account now, it's $150, and the bill is actually due now. The bill is $450, and the bill's due now, okay? Same thing. You go straight to where you want to put your focus, right? Let's go through the premises. I can choose to live in a state of inner peace no matter what is happening externally. So yes, this circumstance is here. I am not clear on how that need is going to get met, but I'm clear on the fact that I'm not separate from the source within me. If that's clear to me, then I'm going to open to what the source within me has for me to experience here. I wonder what that is. I don't know what that is, but I know that I am loved. I know that I'm supported. I know that I'm guided. I know that there's no shortage of money. It may appear that way temporarily in my bank account, but truth is, there is no shortage of money. I know that Source is trying to send me money right now. I know that Source is sending me some kind of resource right now. I know resources are available in limitless form right now, in whatever way it chooses to show up. And so you can still go there in that moment. Would you not be more open if you go there in that moment? Now, if you had to make a decision right now, you can make that decision from peace because you chose to go there first. Because your first response to life is the awareness that you're not separate from the source within you. Is the awareness that the source within you is limitless. And you begin to envision, wait, if the source within me is limitless, then money is also limitless. Money or some other resource. Because we always think about money as the solution, right? But somebody could swoop down and pay that bill for you. My mother has a story of where she was trying to figure out how to pay some bill many years ago, decades ago, trying to figure out how to pay some bill, and went to tell the bill payer, I don't know who she owed money to or whatever, some bill. She went in to let them know she needs more time to pay the bill, and they looked up her account and the bill was paid. And she's like, excuse me, what? They're like, this was paid on whatever day it was paid. You don't owe anything. We don't think from that perspective, right? Whenever you're doubting the amazing ways in which money can show up, go back to that Mystical Money and More video that I did to remind yourself just how powerful you are and how many ways in which money can show up. It could show up in the form of something being already paid. It could show up as extra money just appeared in your bank account. You have no idea how it happened. So we have all these limits that we perceive, and they're not actually real. They're not real. They're just perceived limits that we're holding on to. And the minute we say not holding on to the limit anymore, that's a limit from physical form. That's limits from inside the physical body. That's limits from inside the physical mind. But I'm not there. I am tuning in. I am identified. I am identified with the source that is within me. I am not separate from the source that is within me. So I'm going to see things through the eyes of source. Source does not see limits, so I don't see limits. If there's some action you need to take, like pay it with a credit card or take out a loan or whatever, those things, if they need to happen, will happen from a place of peace. And you don't even worry about how it's going to get paid back. It's like, more money's coming. There's such confidence. But the confidence is not coming from knowing where the money came from. One of the videos I did in the past responding to a question like this was where I shared the example. If your bank account had a little bit of money in it, and you decided, and a friend calls you up and says, hey girl, I just won the lottery and you are my bestie, I got to give you some of that. I'm sending you a $5,000 check tomorrow. And you had zero in your bank account at that point, your entire demeanor changes, right? Because you just heard good news about money. Your entire demeanor changes because you're aware that money is coming. So, and nothing, your bank account still says zero. Yeah, but the friend said 5,000. Yeah, but your bank account's still zero though. Oh yeah, but the friend said 5,000. Yeah, but your bank account is still zero and it will stay zero until she actually collects the money and then follows through with giving it to you. So it might actually stay zero for the next 5 days. I ain't worried about that. 5,000 coming. I don't care. So the true question is not how can I believe in the midst of perceived lack, because you just proved to yourself that you can be perfectly okay with your bank account being zero because bestie girlfriend said 5,000's coming. And now you have universal forces behind you going, so much is coming. Regardless of what you see, there's so much coming. Regardless of what you see, there's so much coming. Regardless of what you see, there's so much coming. And you begin to develop within you, with practice, you begin to develop within you that degree of resilience. So when you look at that, it's kind of like what I shared in the last video. What is informing your state of being? Is it the bank account, or is it the awareness? More is coming, more is always coming, more is always coming, more is always coming, more is so. I'm not alone in this. There's so much support behind me. I'm not alone in this. I'm going to choose the, and very soon when you begin to respond to life in that way, very soon you begin to, your circumstances begin to change, because you're not responding to life with worry anymore. You're responding to life with resilience. You're not responding to life with concern and how do I figure it out from the mind. You're responding to life with, I know what my true resource is. I know what my true source is. So I'm not concerned about this. This is a temporal blip in my story. And because I know it's a temporal blip in my story, I'm hanging on to what I know is true rather than what's illusionary and temporary. Because what's true is that there's no limit to the access that I have to money. That's what's true. And if I know that's true, I'm not focused on what the bank account, physical bank account may be showing. I'm focused on what's real, which is there's a limitless resource available to me. And again, let's not be so tied to money that we're not open to gifts and somebody paying it off for you and, you know, all these other options. I have always said to the universe, don't care which way you bring it as long as it's fun and interesting. And I've had so many different experiences financially. I don't care which way you bring it as long as it's fun and interesting. And not be so, you know, tied to, please, can I manifest $450 in the next 2 days? Please, can I manifest? No, you go, I am one with the source that is within me. And because I'm one with the source that is within me, everything is resolved. And because I know everything is resolved, I'm moving into a space of gratitude over the fact that everything is resolved. I don't need to know how it's going to be resolved. I know it's already resolved, it's taken care of, and I can celebrate that it's taken care of. And you move into that energy because your sense of security and your trust is in the, it's not in the bank account, it's not in the job, it's not in the business, it's not in any of that, right? Again, go back to that opening to limitless abundance video that I uploaded. It's not in any of those things. It's in the knowing that I'm not separate from the source and the power source that is within me. And if that knowing is true, that's what I go to. Regardless of what's happening in life, that's what I go to. In any moment, it's my automatic. And the more you practice the awareness that you are not separate from source as your go-to, it becomes your go-to. I would encourage you now to start declaring over your life, my go-to in life, my sense of security in life is I am not separate from the source within me. That's my go-to. That's my go-to. That's my go-to. That's my go-to. And you reprogram that, all of a sudden, as things come up, you go, that's what started happening with me. I go, oh, I totally responded to that with confidence. Like, I think I reprogrammed. What? That didn't even bother me. I didn't even feel a blip of dense energy around that. The fuck? I think I've reprogrammed. And you start responding to life in a different way. And the more you respond to life in a different way, the more you reprogram, and the connections in your brain don't go to worry anymore. They go to, nah, she's sourced. She's fully supported. That's where it goes because you chose to reprogram your response to life in that way. Same for a relationship. It's not going well, you go to the light within you, as we talked about earlier. Same for whatever. I don't want to live in this location. I don't want to live in this house. I don't want to have a day job. I don't want to. I would not begin with what I don't want, right? And resisting what is happening. It's like, well, all of this is happening for me to see things. Whatever's happening in your life is life reflecting back to you what you need to take a closer look at. Right? Life is a reflection. Life is reflecting back to you what you need to take a look at inside of you. So relationships flaring up. Time to go inside and see what that's telling me. Bank accounts looking a certain, time to go inside and see what that's telling me. Body is doing a certain thing. Time to go inside and see what that's telling me. Life is a reflection that's telling you what aspect of your life needs closer looking, right? Not with self-judgment, because if you go with self-judgment, now you're backing up the whole thing. You go with curiosity and self-love. You go with curiosity and self-love, and you take a look from a different perspective. What within you allowed you to come into the knowing that more is always coming? Like, what divine law or principle allowed you to move into that knowing, or did your divine team shed light on that? Or that's a beautiful question. Let me repeat the question again, because I'll explain that fully. What within you allowed you to come into the knowing that more is always coming? Like, what divine law or principle allowed you to move into that knowing? Or did your divine team just shed light on that reality for you? I would say that my confidence began with trust first. It was, and all of you are probably there. It's like, you move from, I know I'm one with source, but I'm in this physical world too. I can't just, I can't tell the landlord that my bank account's an illusion. You know what I mean? And you start there, right? And because you're not really, when you're having those thoughts, which I have had as well, you're not really tapped into the truth of who you are, right? Because if you were tapped into the truth of who you are, that wouldn't even come up because you're so tapped in. But before we're completely tapped in, we're very invested in this physical body, what the mind can do, what the physical body is capable of, what the physical mind is capable of. We're there, we're drenched, we are swimming, we are submerged in what's physically possible. So that when you hear somebody like me say, you are not separate from the source within you, it kind of goes in one ear and comes out another. You don't go, oh, right. It's kind of like Milo can hear 4 times what I can hear, right? If he hears something, he'll perk up. I'm like, what? I don't hear anything. It's just like that in our spiritual journey. When we're fully submerged on body and mind, we're like, what's going on in my story? What's going on in my body? What's going on in my mind? Trying to figure it out. You're just submerged in the physical. You just 100% submerged in the physical. And somebody comes in like me today, and I go, but you're not separate from the source that within you. You go, I mean, I get it, but how do I pay the bill though? You can't hear that frequency. It's kind of like I can't hear what Milo is hearing. You can't hear that frequency. It doesn't land yet. It's like, I hear what she's saying. I just wish I could be that confident. I just can't. You can't hear the frequency because you didn't align with the frequency. And see, that's what I'm saying is you've got to find some path. No, not find, but you have to recognize that already laid before you is a path to that frequency. It's already laid out. There's a path to that frequency already laid out. And you have to perceive that there's a path, right? So for me, it started with hearing people saying that over and over. And we all heard Abraham Hicks, yeah, just get happy and everything will change. And for a while, it's kind of like you're taking it in, but it's not in. It's like, I mean, I kind of hear it, but it's not clicking to the point where I could stand in it, and feel certain within it. It's just not clicking yet. But the more I listened to things like that, the more I was like, well, fuck, if this is possible, why do I keep going back to thoughts of it not being possible? Why do I keep going back there? And then I realized at some point in my journey, I can't pinpoint it, but I realized I'm constantly thinking worrisome thoughts. So if I just think a different kind of thought, then I'll be able to reprogram. And so I went from, okay, I mean, I hear you that I'm not separate from source, but I can't like not do something about this because I'm scared. Okay, just fine, go do something about it. It's fine. You're not like breaking any laws. Like borrow some money, like take a loan out, get another credit card, whatever. You're not breaking any laws. So I was there at a certain point in time where I was hearing the words like people like me today have been saying, but I don't feel certain. I don't feel certain, right? And then at some point I was like, well, other people feel fucking certain. That means I could feel certain too, And then I started to say to the source within me, and it wasn't like, yes, my divine team said a whole bunch of stuff too, but it landed the same way because I wasn't into frequency, right? I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear it at the depth of my core because I was not in that frequency, even though Spirit's talking, right? All these videos I'm watching on Spirit's talking. I'm not in the frequency. If I'm not in the frequency and I'm more in the frequency of worry, there's no space for me to expand in confidence. So I moved from, okay, I'm hearing it, but it doesn't feel confident, to, all right, with this one thing, I'm just gonna trust that something's gonna work out. Like I start with something small, right? Where I'm gonna trust that, what if I go full out trusting that this is going to work out? I'm just going to full out trust and see what happens. It was a space within which I could full out trust, because we have to experience it in order for it, like the confidence that I stand in today, I had to experience in order to get there. I don't care how much I yell and scream into this camera and this microphone today. You're not going to experience it until you experience it. So I took something and I go, okay, so this is let's just try full out fucking trust on this one. Like, let's just full out. I'm gonna full out trust. And why is it full out trust? Because I don't feel fully tapped into that frequency of knowing. When you're in the frequency of knowing, trust isn't necessary. But if you're not in the frequency of knowing, trust is part of the path. It doesn't have to be, but it was part of the path for me, probably is part of the path for everyone. So I chose something where I'm not going to worry. I am decidedly going to look at that staring me in my face. I'm not going to worry. I'm going to apply an entirely different response to that for the first time. If it blows up in my face, it's a small enough thing that it's not going to be a disaster. I can fix it. But I'm going to, for this particular thing, if it's a bill or something, right? I'm going to full out trust. I'm going to look at what's in my bank account right now and choose peace. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose peace because I know what's possible. So I'm going to choose peace or whatever. So some life situation emerges as an opportunity, not a problem, but an opportunity. And you look at it and you go, I'm going to choose a different response. Normally I'm worried. Right? Not going to worry now. Part of my path, by the way, was I don't give a fuck, right? That was part of that, right? Where I was so worried about the mortgage every damn month that I was tired. I was just exhausted. I was tired. I was tired of going into worry between the 22nd and the 31st. I was just tired. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. Take the fucking house. I don't care. I don't care. Just take it. I'm not gonna worry about this anymore. Just take it. I'll go live on their bridge, me and my 2 children. We're gonna live on their bridge, or I'll send them to live with their dad and I'll go live on their bridge, and that's just the way it's gonna go. I don't care. I don't care. I do not care. Right? And I was quote unquote giving up. Right? I was like, I don't fucking care what you do with the house. Take it. Right? I even started in my mind, I was like, if I stop paying the mortgage, I have at least a certain number of months to get my clothes and stuff together. Like I was ready for the end, right? And then what I didn't know is what that did. It released the worry. That was my biggest worry every month financially, my biggest worry. And when I said, fuck it, I don't care, I wasn't worried anymore. When I wasn't worried anymore, a space opened. A space opened for me to hear and see more of what's possible. And that's when all of that stuff that I shared in the Ultimate Manifestation playlist came out of that space, right? Ideas came, different teachings came. When I was worried and bottled up, that couldn't come through. I was too focused on the story. I was too drenched in the story. I was too drenched in the character. I was too drenched in the role. But when I said, fuck it, I was like, oh, the sun is shining, right? I wasn't carrying this backpack with heavy rocks on my back anymore every month. And when you release, and some of you have experienced that, Rachel experienced that in her body, right? It's like carrying this huge tumor the size of a 6-month pregnancy. And I think part of your path was both, I give up and I'm not going to resist this anymore. I think those two things were part of your path. She woke up one day and the tumor disappeared. Totally. Totally disappeared. Didn't go to a doctor, tumor totally disappeared. From looking like a 6-month pregnant woman to flat abs. She had flat, the tumor didn't go from this size to then this size. Flat fucking abs. Okay, right, Rachel? Flat fucking abs. Like, she just woke up and it was gone. And she was like, what? What? She was shocked. It's gone, right? Sometimes we just need to give up the resistance. If you're having ailments in your body and you're like, how do I get rid of this? I need to get rid of this. I gotta get rid of this. Why is this happening? Just go, you know what? I'm good. I'm just gonna accept what is. It's fine. It's fine. I am going to live my fucking best life through this illness. I'm going to encourage people. I'm going to whatever, it doesn't even have to be encouraging people. So I'm going to encourage myself. Every time I feel the pain, I'm going to use that as a trigger to encourage myself. You just go into a whole different experience of that life event and you're not struggling with it anymore. You're not fighting with it anymore. If you don't like where you're living and you're like, I don't want to live here, this neighborhood is horrible, or somebody I talked to previously, I don't like the weather, I'd rather be in a warmer climate, I just don't want to. So you could be fighting with life, or you go, this is what's unfolding right now. So I'm going to make the best of what's unfolding right now. I'm going to decorate my house. I'm going to enjoy the food that I am able to cook. I'm going to be grateful for that I have a roof over my head, because some people do not. And some people are living on their bridge right now, and I actually have a house. Some people don't even have anywhere to live, let alone choosing the tropical climate versus the cold climate. So in the cold, rainy climate, I am going to be grateful for the fact that I am alive, I am well in my body, I have a job, I have, whatever you can be grateful for. And I'm going to trust that things are going to move on. Things are going to evolve. I'm just going to trust. I'm just going to stay in love with what my desires are, and I'm just going to trust that at some point, I don't know when, I don't care, I'm just going to live life. You know, I'm just going to live life. I'm just going to wake up and live life. I'm not going to fight with life anymore. That's enough. I'm just going to wake up and live my life, right? I'm just going to wake up and know that whatever it is that I'm wanting more of will evolve. I'm just going to live in peace. I'm just going to choose peace for once. For once, I'm just going to choose peace. I'm not going to fight with life. I'm just going to choose peace. And the minute you relinquish the resistance and the fighting, and why don't I have this yet? I've been trying to get this for so long, and I got, how do I manifest this? And what do I figure it out? And you just let go. Space happens. Oh, I feel like going for a walk today. Oh, I feel like watching this movie, or I feel like calling a friend. There's like space for other things other than grappling with why you don't have what you don't have. You know, you create more space and you go, I'm going to be at peace. I'm going to choose to be at peace with what is. But to continue, the question here, in terms of how did I move? So I went from, I can't even hear that frequency. I mean, I hear you talking, I hear you, but I don't feel it. And I'm wanting to feel it. I went from saying to myself, this is another transition for me. I went from saying to myself, I'm going to get there someday. There are other people living like that. I'm going to get there someday. To, I'm going to declare that over my life now. I'm going to declare that I have confidence in the fact that I am not separate from source now. I'm going to declare that I'm fearless now. I'm going to declare that I'm limitless now. It was before I felt the full frequency of it, but I wasn't continuously putting it off in the future as something other people got to experience and I have to wait for something, I don't know, in order to experience it. I'm like, well, wait, all of that's available to me now. So I'm going to move into that frequency now. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to choose to declare that over my life now. And so part of the programming was also, I kept telling myself, I'm limitless. I'm the same as source. I'm limitless. I'm the same as source. There's no separation between me and source. I'm limitless. And I kept repeating those truths to myself enough that I rewired my mind. And that became my automatic response to life. And the confidence that something's going to happen came from experiencing the fact that something happened. I created the space, enough space to experience that something happened as a result of me choosing to focus on what I prefer. And when I chose to focus on what I prefer, it just manifested. It just happened. And it continues to happen over and over and over. In many different ways, by the way. It's not just, we have to, part of my journey, let me just say it for me. Part of my journey was releasing attachment to how it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. The other day, my son, who's in the performing arts, he got a lead role in a show. And of course, it's in Florida, so, and it was a very last minute thing. And I'm like, oh man, I so want to be in that audience to see him take his lead role in this Broadway show. And I didn't know how I was going to get there because it was short notice. I had some other things planned. It was the weekend that I had planned our last live event. I'm like, I'm gonna have to cancel that. And then my son had some issues with car issues, and he couldn't drop me to the airport. And I couldn't put the pieces together. I couldn't figure out how I can get myself in that seat, right? Couldn't figure that out. And at a certain point, I was like, hey, wait, we don't figure shit out. Shit gets figured out, right? Suddenly had that awareness, and I let go. And I was like, my only work is that I am sitting in an amazing seat in that theater watching my son perform. That's my only work. That's my only work. It's gonna figure itself out. Because at first I was like trying to figure out if I should take the train there, or maybe I should fly, or maybe, but the flights are not at the right times because, and all these different things. I might have to cancel the event. Do I really want to cancel the event? I really wanted to do the event. So all these things were going on, right? brain trying to figure it out. And then I suddenly had the awareness, because I practiced this a lot. Allison, your work is not to figure this out. Your work is to enjoy the seat that you got in that theater. That's your only work. Enjoy the seat. And I stopped. I stopped searching for flights. I stopped searching for, because we live way out in the country, ain't no Uber out here. No Uber, okay? And the 2 taxi companies pick up the phone whenever they feel like it. That's kind of where I live. So there's no reliable exit out of here if you don't have your own car. So you can't even get to, funny things, you can't even get to the rental car company because you don't have a car to get there. And if they have somebody available to come pick you up, maybe you can get there. So all these different things going on, right? And I'm like, my only work is to be in the seat. And so I just went about my life, and I was like, I'm gonna figure it out. Life is gonna figure it out for me. If I'm supposed to be there, life will figure it out for me. If I need to reschedule the live event, I did, it'll be fine. My son calls, the one who's in the show. Mom, so I got you a ticket on this flight, and by the way, my boss got you the best seat in the house. This is why I say you don't have to, I never thought my son would buy me a ticket because he doesn't have to. He bought me a ticket. He getting well paid with them events, but he bought me a ticket, booked the flight, picked me up. How I got from here, how did I get from here? My car became available in the exact right timing. I drove myself to the airport, parked at the airport. Our only work is to be in alignment with what we desire. That's our only work. I'll tell you another story. I got into baking sourdough bread. And one of the best ways to bake it is in a Dutch oven. I don't have a Dutch oven. And I'm like, I don't really want to buy a Dutch oven because I'm kind of a minimalist. I'm like, I don't want another pot that I don't really use. And what if I don't really feel like doing, this kind of bread anymore? Now I have this extra pot just taking up space in my house. So I'm debating back and forth, went to Amazon, and I'm like, I don't want an enamel Dutch oven. I want a cast iron Dutch oven. I love cast iron to cook in. So I'm like, oh, cast iron. So I'm browsing Amazon for the cast. Every time I go to click to pay, I go, do I really want another cooking vessel? Is it really necessary? And I keep questioning myself. Like, I don't know, just another pot to sit around, and now I have to dig through that to get to the pots I really want to use, and all that, going over all of it in my head, right? And finally, I give up, and I'm like, I'll know what to do, right? I'll know what to do. And I go grocery shopping one day. I just released it, right? I was trying to figure out if I should really get it or not get it. Really simple example. This was really amazing to me. Really amazing to me. I go grocery shopping one day, and I'm coming back home, and suddenly I feel this pull into Goodwill. I don't go to Goodwill, okay? I don't go to Goodwill. I go to donate because I'm always trying to get rid of more stuff. I get this pull. So I go because I'm like, I get this strong sense that I need to be at Goodwill right now. And I pull into the Goodwill parking lot. I park. I'm literally parking, and I'm saying out loud to myself, I don't even know why I'm here. Why am I here? Why am I pulling in here? Maybe they have something that might be desirable. I don't know. And I lock my car, and I'm walking, and I'm going, I don't even know why I'm going in here. Why am I going in here? I walk into the front door, and I'm muttering to myself, why am I here? Why am I here? And I keep walking down the first aisle, right? I kid you not. I'm walking from the door in at the same time an employee from Goodwill is coming out of the back area of the store with a cart getting ready to stock the shelves of Goodwill. I stopped for her to go by me. Y'all think of the timing. I stopped for her to go by me. She goes by me, and I suddenly see the exact cast iron Dutch oven I saw on Amazon right there. Do you know what universal orchestration had to happen? Think about this. The universe had to orchestrate the employee coming out at the same time I am walking in. The universe had to orchestrate the employee putting that Dutch oven on that cart right at the time when I was shopping at a grocery store with no knowledge that that was going to be part of my day. And I did a double take. I was like, is that a Dutch oven? A cast iron Dutch oven? She goes, yeah, you want it? I'm like, yeah. For $5? Yeah. And I literally, I'm walking through Goodwill going, this did not just happen. Did this just happen? This did not just, and of course, Spirit is like, and this is how all of life can happen. I'm like, did this just, I put it in my car and I'm looking at it going, did this just happen? I don't go to Goodwill. I had no plans on going to Goodwill that day. I don't even know why I'm walking into Goodwill. But there's my Dutch oven. Life probably said she gonna feel bad if she buys a Dutch oven for $50 and then she doesn't care to bake sourdough bread anymore. So let's give it to her for $5. She's not gonna belabor over it anymore. This is how life can happen. This is how life can happen. But it starts with, I'm not in the frequency I can't even hear that I could trust in that way. And then you go, what if I did trust? Just to see what would happen. Let me just trust this. And the minute it unfolds, you're like, whoa, shit. If I could do that, I could do that. Another part of my journey is, this is the thing, we have a propensity to forget. So a part of my journey was writing down all of these instances, like all of those things that I just told you, I wrote down in my journal of magical synchronicities. So the next time my brain starts to doubt, I go read my journal of magical synchronicities. I can't get past the first 2 or 3 entries that I go, girl, what you worried about? If you did all of this, right? So Rachel, for example, could write down manifested disappearing tumor and write the story. Like I would write the story in like a 5-sentence paragraph. And I have a running document in my Evernote app that's called Journal of Magical Synchronicities. And every time, I don't care how small the synchronicity is, I would write it down as a manifestation of a magical synchronicity. And that served as because we forget. With amazing things like this happen, and we're like, the next time something comes up for us to worry about, we're like, oh my God, I need to worry. Wait, didn't I magically manifest? Write it down. Every time it happens, write it down, write the story. I usually have a little caption, like on the story that I ended for the cast iron pot. I went cast iron, Dutch oven, magically manifested. And then I wrote down like 5 or 6 sentences of how it happened. And that was also part of my shoring up my confidence, because I'm like looking back going, wait, this happened, then this happened, and that happened. Right, I remember that happened too. That happened. And that's when you start to realize, what am I worried about? Look, there's evidence of how powerful I am. There is evidence of how powerful I am. Why don't I continue to trust in that direction? So that was another part of my journey too, is just recognizing I forget all of these instances. And because I forget so often, I probably need to write it down so I do not forget, and so that it serves as a reminder to me of how powerful I am when I'm flowing in the energy of being one with the source within me. The question is how to remember to stay in that wonderful headspace. Well, you have to have a practice where you stay there. If you ask me, Allison, how do you stay in that wonderful headspace? It's that, right? You're remembering, writing down reminders, and having a practice where there's some part of my day that always puts me into the remembrance that I am one with the source within me. right? Because sometimes all we do is practice how to manifest shit, which is fine. Manifest shit, it's fine. But like I said, the ultimate manifestation for me is remembering that I am one with the source within me. If I manifest that, then everything else is birthed out of that, right? So how often are you tuned into that truth? And not only just tuned into that truth, but how often are you applying it to life? Like just like I did earlier in our time together here today, when life throws me something, I become vigilant. I'm like, aha, yeah, I see doubt coming up. I'm going to tune into the truth of who I am. I go back to my journal of magical synchronicities. I remind myself, you are one. Allison, you are one with the source within you, girl. You are one with that which hung the planets in orbit. You are one. And if you are one with, I talk to myself that way. Like I literally go in the mirror and I talk to myself, you are one with that which hung the planets in orbit. The thing that keeps your heart beating at night is the same thing that will resolve this problem. In fact, not will it resolve this problem is already resolved. So simply move in the direction of receiving and acknowledging and recognizing that it has been resolved already. I will talk out loud to myself that way. Constantly talking to myself out loud that way. And I'll again end by just underscoring that I have the same life experiences that you all do. Same exact life experiences. I just respond to them from the awareness that I am not separate from the source within me. That's my go-to response. Does disappointment come up sometimes? Yes. Does worry come up sometimes? Yes, less and less so now. Does doubt come up sometimes? Yes. But I respond to them from the awareness that I am not separate from the source within me. That's my first response to life. Declare that over your life. My first response to life is I am not separate from the source within me. Like write that down and say it to yourself so often and then apply it when life comes up. My first response to life is I am not separate from the source within me. My first response to life is that I am not separate. My first response to life is I am not separate from the, like I would just play with that in different ways. And then I would start to conjure up a life event that's unfolding right now. I was like, to this life event, in this life event, my first response to life is I am not separate from the source within me. Because I am not separate from the source within me, I can see clearly what is possible in this situation. I can receive clearly what's possible in this. Like I would just be walking and talking to myself. What am I doing? I'm reprogramming. I'm constantly reprogramming. Because if I don't reprogram, I get overridden with my past programming, right? So I take the lead. I'm like, I'm not from a place of resistance, by the way, just from a place of awareness. You can be here. You can be here, life situation, but let me tell you what I am aware of, right? So, in many ways, we just have to reprogram by declaring that we are that already, rather than looking at somebody else and going, oh, someday I'll get there. I want to have that level of confidence. Want to have that level of confidence is already in you. I declare that I am that confident. That's my life. Like when I was in this podcast where I heard the woman say, your inner peace is not dependent on or derived from or disturbed by your character's experiences. I'm like, well, shit. I'm gonna declare that over my inner peace is not dependent on, derived from, or disturbed by the characters. I started speaking that into my own life, right? I'm like, shoot, you could live like that, like you could really live like that. And then I was like, I am living. Like I declare it in the now, because the only moment we have is the now. Why am I waiting? Why am I deciding that somebody else is more powerful than I am? I'm declaring it over my life right now. I'm taking it right now. I'm taking it in. It's mine. I am living it right now. I declare over my life that I'm living that right now. Do you still talk to yourself like this and reprogram every day? Every day. I don't know that there's a day that goes by. And what's interesting, as you all know, A Course in Miracles came into my life in the beginning of 2024, just sort of wafted into my life, not me looking for it. In fact, when it came, I'm like, no, you don't resonate with me. And I rejected it for a little while until I realized you're not going to stop trying to be a part of my life. And I let go and I'm like, all right, let me see what wants to unfold here. And because I started, my rejection of it was, it's heavy Christian verbiage, salvation, son of God, sin, all these different things, which all these words mean something entirely different in A Course in Miracles than it meant when I was growing up in Christianity. But I didn't know that, so I kept rejecting it. I'm like, I do not know what you're trying to say. I am not going there right now. Until life said, okay, how about we send you a translator? And not in that way, right? I just happened upon, what's her name? Oh gosh, I forget her name. But she has a YouTube channel. She doesn't even upload anymore. She hasn't uploaded in 6 years. But she took every message from A Course in Miracles workbook and explained it to you. And when I found her, I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad if you have a translator. And so the reason I say every single day is because I am going through A Course in Miracles workbook day by day. Do I do it religiously, like I have to do it and I have to do it? It says no. But because I am open, each day I look at the lesson and something will call to me. And if anybody of you has ever experienced A Course in Miracles, the workbook is 365 lessons, very repetitive in places, but it aligned with what I was already doing, which is I pick a truth and I go over it over and over and over and over in my mind, right? And I apply it to different areas of my life over and over and over until it feels certain and strong within me. And so A Course in Miracles offers different truths, and it says it in a very different, very poetic way at times, like spirit I am. It's like, I wouldn't speak like that, right? But I think the lesson from yesterday was spirit I am, limitless in power and peace. That's not the way I would say it, but when it comes in, I'm like, spirit I am, limitless in power and peace. And I was walking Milo and I was like, spirit I am, limitless in power and peace, safe and secure in the source that I am. Like, it adds to my ability to speak to myself and reprogram. So every single day when I sit in contemplation, I'm reprogramming. There's not a single day that goes by that I'm not reprogramming, because I'm repeating things to myself in contemplation. Right? If something strikes me as an aha moment, it becomes my contemplation. Like this, your inner peace is not dependent on, derived from, or disturbed by your characters. Hell yeah, I wrote that down. Hell yeah, I spent hours staring at it. Hell yeah, I spent hours repeating it to myself over and over and over, because I want that to be my truth. So I declared it, it's my truth, and I speak it as my truth, because I know that's who I truly am. That's what's true. The false perceptions that I can't walk in complete peace regardless of what's happening, that's a false perception. So I choose the truth, and I go over it over and over. So the answer is absolutely yes, especially when I'm walking with Milo, because I'm out in nature. But as you all know, I'm sitting out in nature for at least an hour a day. I'm sitting under a tree by myself, just contemplating, So when I'm doing that, I'm going over in my mind over and over and over and over some truth, and it's embedded within me. Typically, I'm choosing things that I feel isn't embedded yet, and I want to feel like it's part of how I respond to life. And so I repeat it until I reprogram my mind. And I reprogram my mind. I go, that's part of how I respond to life now, and I can move on to. I could feel. Like, I don't decide when to move on. I just look at it and I go, I'm good with you. You're a part of me now. I'm going to move on to another truth, And sometimes it's something from A Course in Miracles, but sometimes it's just something that lands, from spirit in my mind. While I'm sitting under a tree, some truth will just land and I'll go, I never part of it in those words specifically, and I'll write it down and I'll go over it over and over and over and over. When I'm just before I go to bed at night, there's at least one contemplation that I feel like I want to reprogram under, that I'm reading to myself. So absolutely, I don't think that'll ever stop in my life. Why? I don't know for sure if it'll ever stop. I don't feel like it'll stop. And the reason I feel like that ongoing reprogramming will never stop is because I'm in a constant state of evolution. So there's always something that I'm discovering about myself that I didn't fully embrace before as deeply as I'm embracing it now. And whenever I feel like, this is a new way to look at this, I go, I'm going to program with that. I'm going to reprogram with that. You know what I mean? There's this awareness that if I keep my focus there, it becomes my reality. So the application of my focus changes my world, inner and outer world. Whenever I choose a piece of truth, I hold on to it with such focus that it must become a reality because it's my focus. And that's why I say, when you hear me say certain things and it feels like it's outside of your frequency of where you are, don't go, oh, one day I'll be, where else and this. Where I'm at is where you are. Like, you just don't recognize that you're already there. Until you declare that you're already there, you're not there, So I would say anytime you see yourself saying, someday, just go, no, this is what I'm claiming for myself. This is the truth that I'm declaring over my life. This is the truth. It's true of me now. It's true of me now that I retain peace regardless of what's happening. That's what's true of me now. And you choose it as a contemplation, maybe at first, but then that contemplation, as you begin to apply it to your life in different circumstances, it becomes real, it becomes active, it becomes your response to life. And then you do it a certain number of times and it becomes your normal response to life. And worry is no longer your go-to. Confidence is your go-to. Fear is no longer your go-to. Possibility becomes your go-to, right? It's just a reprogramming, a shift in perception. It feels good too. Yeah, goes deeper each time and feels new. Yeah. Whenever I have a contemplation, I will focus on different words in it. Like if I were focusing on my inner peace is not dependent on, derived from, or disturbed by my character's experiences, I will focus on dependent on, right? And I'll go, it's not dependent on. Like I don't know, the way, when I say it that way, like sinks in more and it becomes more real and becomes more, I could feel it like in my every atom of my body, when I focus in on a particular word. But that's just the way that I do it, The Buddha used to do that, yeah. All right, y'all, I wasn't even watching the time. We've been here for 3.5 hours. It is what it is. Milo's probably going, we ain't going for a walk today, like what's going on? So I'm gonna go take a walk with Milo, decompress from all my chatter, sit in stillness under a tree. Thank you all for sharing this time with me. We are complete. 3.5 hours later. I don't feel tired either. Probably could use some food and water now, but put out so much energy. You're so welcome. Thank you all for being with me. Thank you for sharing this space with me, because what comes out of my mouth ricochets back into my life and expands. It's a dual thing. It's a dual thing. Everybody take a deep breath before we go. And say to yourself, I claim every truth that came forward here in this 3.5 hours. Every truth that came forward is mine. It's who I am. Not who I'm going to be. It's who I am. It's who I am. Because it is who you are. Thank you, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day and an amazing week. And y'all know me, I'll come back to you and offer some other kind of free thing at some point in the future. But for now, have an amazing week and an amazing rest of your day. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us for that very lengthy 3.5-hour event, which ended up being 5 separate videos here on YouTube. You can find all of those in the Q&A playlist. I do want to remind you to take what resonates and discard what does not. It is very important to listen to your own inner guidance. What's coming up next is probably another Q&A live event. There are some questions that came out of this live event that I have not responded to yet, so I'll probably do that in our next live event. I will also be sending an email out shortly letting you know that private one-on-one sessions are now available. I don't know how long they'll be available, but that's what I feel inspired to do next. As you all know, that is also free because I am just here giving back to our spiritual community. Just keep an eye on your email for that, and I will see you all soon. Bye.